Today I'm going to challenge myself to make a corset as cheap as possible. Now what is that number? A little bit of context. Back in, like 2014, it's been a decade, I sold my first corset, a Timeless Trends novice corset, for $75 on eBay to get the money to fund my corset making journey. Now a lot has changed in that decade and inflation has been just eating our and to make this challenge just a little bit harder on myself, I have set a couple boundaries for myself. Number 1, standard sewing notions don't count towards the total cost. That includes scissors, pins, marking tools, and sewing machines because let's be frank, if you're following this channel, you are probably the kind of person who everybody and their grandmother is trying to pawn off their old sewing machines to. Rule number 2 is I cannot go into any specialty shops. I have no self-control and I will buy too many supplies and I don't have enough time to finish all of the projects that I want to do. And also, I want to make this very accessible to you guys, so I will only be getting my supplies from shops that you can find in an average sized town. So with that, let's hop in the car with Rachel and do some shopping! Alright, first things first, we're gonna head to Joann's where we can get most of our supplies. It's a jolly all the time, reroll. Overpriced craft. First we hit up the fabric. I recommend a duck or a twill from Joann's, which is usually about $10, but they were all out of the twill, and honestly, this brat green canvas was calling my name. I'm low-key obsessed with chartreuse right now. As you can see, this canvas is softer than the duck though, so we'll do a double layer corset to give it more strength. Next, I picked up some matching thread as I don't have this color in my stash, and unfortunately that will count towards our total. To bind the top and bottom edges of the corset, I tried to find matching double fold bias binding. It wasn't a perfect match, but close enough, and because I wasn't sure how much I needed, I ended up getting 2 packs. Next, I picked up a heavy-duty metal separating zipper. Any other zipper will not hold up to the tension on the waist and could bust open. I was hoping Joann's would carry real grommets, but all I found was eyelets. You can tell that they're eyelets because there's only 1 piece in there. Grommets are usually 2 pieces. And the split end of the opening means that it's meant to roll back on itself to grab the fabric, but these are always terrible quality and rip out so quick, so I had to keep looking. The Joann's ribbon department was wrecked, but I managed to find 2 spools of 1/4-inch grosgrain ribbon in a similar color. These had about 6 yards on each spool, so I grabbed 2. I looked in the boning department, hoping to find something better than the usual stuff, but all they had was your typical Ridgeline trash. And every pack was already busted open, so who knows if you were actually getting the appropriate amount in there. With that, I got my 1 yard of fabric cut, Rachel came in clutch with the coupons, and we were off to get a sweet treat and assess the damage. Yes! 'Tis a season, always a season for a dirty chai.
Yeah. Seat.
So the damage was $37.67, which means we are already halfway through our budget. We still need the boning, we still need the grommets, and that I think might take the rest of our budget. Let's go to Amazon. I was feeling a little bit defeated because after tallying up all of the hardware supplies in my Amazon shopping list, it was gonna be too expensive. Now, if you have the budget, I would highly recommend just getting the appropriate supplies, and you can check out that Amazon link down below. However, I did have one trick up my sleeve that I used in my early costuming days, so with that, we headed to the next location. All right, we just made it to the hardware store. And we're gonna look some unconventional places for the boning. I have a little trick that I used to do back when I really couldn't afford crafting supplies, and I found a great little workaround, but I don't know if it's still there, so let's see if we can go find it. Yeah, okay, so here's the funny thing. If you look at, there are 2 different colors of the tie-down straps for the lumber. This light teal one is actually pretty nice for boning. This dark green one is not good. So let's go see if we can like pull some tie-down straps and then our boning will be free. Now, I was feeling really successful at this point, so I was hoping that maybe I could find some grommets here at the hardware store. And while they did have some decent quality ones, they were way too big for our project. So with that, we went home to get sewing and figure out our other options to meet this challenge. We got the goods. We got the budget looking a little dire. But we will do our tally at the end and see what it came out to. Now, ideally, we would be washing our fabric first, but we don't have time for that today. And ideally, you will not be washing your corset anyways. You should be wearing a layer between you and the garment. I will be doing a 2-layer sandwich style construction method, which I have covered on my channel before. I did do a tutorial on how to make a single layer corset with that pattern. However, with most patterns, you can choose either method of construction. Real quick, I'm going to iron out these wrinkles that are in the fabric. See how quickly I can sew this. Usually it takes me about 8 hours to make a corset from start to finish, but we don't have that kind of time today, so let's see if we can do it in less than that.
It's 4:24.
4:24. Let's see if I can get it done by 8:24. I don't know if I can, but hopefully I will. You know, it's only 4 pieces, so that should actually be okay. Now, if you want a full corset tutorial, you can see my video how to make a single layer corset, also known as the Sakura cincher. But I'm just starting with my Sakura cincher corset pattern, and I'm gonna cut out 4 of everything for the sandwich method. All right, everything is all marked up and ready to cut out. So let's do a little snippy snip.
You okay?
Yes, I didn't fuck up, but I started to fuck up. Okay, so I said I wanted to add a placket to hide the zip since they didn't have any green zippers, which means to make this corset a lapped zipper corset. And the Sakura corset pattern does not come with a lap in it. So all that I did is I extended the center front seam over by 1/2 inch. That way I would have a 1/4 inch lap on each side. So we need to do everything 4 times for the sandwich method, which means we got a lot of sewing to do. Okay, first seam done. Roll montage. Now, while this color is perfectly Brat Girl Summer, I gotta admit it was more of a Wicked Girl Summer for me. I was so obsessed. I wanted to be Elphaba so bad, so to see it so well done on screen, it was everything I was hoping for. So that's a 4, and that's a 1. Yeah, I did it wrong. It's like a puzzle. And that's a 4. Nope, what am I doing? Like that. Yes. And I'm gonna have a placket. Yes, okay. I figured it out, Okay. So, you should have 2 piles. One is placket extension on top, non-placket extension on bottom. Placket extension on top, no placket extension on bottom. Then you sew the 4s and the 4s together, and everyone's happy and everyone make baby. Okay, maybe no baby making, but lots of corset making.
Basically your babies right there.
They are my babies. You know, sometimes I feel a little bit ashamed that I am so obsessed with corsets, but then I remember that there are men with rooms full of shoes, and I don't feel so bad. Okay, everything better, everyone have baby, we are good to go, and we have our panels. Now we need to iron. From there, I ironed everything really well, making sure to press back. Oh, there's Mr. Blackwell. Say hi. What are you doing? That's only okay because he doesn't have a shoe room. All right, so real quick, the inside is all nice and ironed, but to really make our corsets look good, you want to iron from the outside as well. That's really going to press those seams nice and flat. So much more beautiful. Now we need our waist tape, which is going to be our Grow Green ribbon. Once all of the panels were perfectly splayed open, it was time to stretch the waist tape across the waistline of the corset. This is really important because this is where most of the tension is going to be, and the waist tape is going to help reinforce that area so that the seams don't bust, and we make sure that our corset stays intact and gives us the cinch that we want. And here, I just stitch in the ditch to lock it down between every seam. Oh, I bent a needle. I used to be like, let me pin very carefully and take out every pin before the needle goes in. But now I'm just like, send it through. I have no patience. So that's probably part of my problem. Nice and taut. Then it was time to install the zipper, and I started the zipper about a ½ inch up from the bottom with the separating part at the bottom. And it's important to start about a ½ inch up, or whatever the width of your bias tape is because we don't want to accidentally lock the separating mechanism inside of our bias binding. So I pinned that in right along the seam allowance and then stitched that down once. Then I connected panel 1 and panel 1 to create a tube, which you can see right here, my little face through it. Hi! Here we find the natural corseteer in her habitat, hunched over a sewing machine, threads everywhere. It's part of her mating ritual. She's looking for another sewist with lots of threads all over her. Her back aches by sitting over the sewing machine for days. She could really use some shrimp on the barbie to keep her energies up, to keep her sewing. Hey, so here you can see we're gonna have this beautiful little lapped zipper here. And we'll just need to do a little stitch to hold that down, but let me show you how I achieved this. So after we have ironed out our panel, you'll see here that the seam of panel 1 on the lining and seam of panel 1 on the placket panel are not lining up. So we're going to match up the seams and we're going to pin in the ditch. So I'm going to go in through one seam, very carefully go out through the other, and then back up through the seam and back out through the other. And now you'll see our placket side is kind of already bubbling up because all of that ease is now being pushed. I'm just going to push it off to the side, close the zipper. These are good iron. Make sure it's really taut so that all that ease is pushed over the zipper to become that placket. And there we have our placket, so that when it goes together, you won't really see the zipper. Now be careful not to send it off the track because it's really hard to get it back. All right, now comes the time for top stitching. And with that, we can move on to the next step, which is boning our corset. So I'm going to use 2 pieces here to support the zipper and give a little bit of tummy control. It's not going to be the best because it's just plastic. And then I'm going to cut 2 more for the back, just a little bit shorter than this, to go next to the grommet. And then I'm going to try and split them in half to go on each side of the seam allowance. That's going to be hard. So I'm going to go for the easy stuff first by cutting the back boning. Stuff is hard to cut. I see why they use it for the wood. Okay, so I'm using, using just some like heavy scissors to cut across, a clear ruler to measure it out. They're a little over a ½ inch. So I'm doing just over a ¼ inch, you know, approximate math. Using an X-Acto blade to score it a couple times. And then I'm using just 2 pliers to bend it down the center and encourage that score and break. And then just peel it apart. Beautiful. They're a little rough though, so we will have to give them a sand later. Now you may be thinking, Nikki, why aren't you leaving them intact and just putting a full one on each side of your seam? Well, that's because they would be too wide and the edges would start to chafe. This material isn't the most ideal for along the hip, but because it's not the most extreme curve, if we make it a thinner bone, it'll be a little more comfortable. Success!
Does not quite bend as nicely as the other ones.
No, it doesn't. I'm just going to take a nail file and just sand any burrs. All the bones are cut and I have marked off how wide our boning channels need to be. So now on each side of the seam, we're going to stitch a top stitch that's going to create a nice little tube or tunnel where we're going to stick our bones in just after that. So
I see how the sandwich method works.
Yeah, it's called a sandwich because you got your top bread, your bottom bread, and your meat in the middle. We got through it! So we only need 1 pack, which means that we can discount a pack from our running total. Since we couldn't find grommets at any of the places that I thought that would be good enough for the amount of effort that we're putting into this garment. I decided to just use the grommets that I have at home because, well, I got tons of them. So we will take that into account in the final cost, which you will see very, very soon. And now it's time for grommets, which means we can try it on very soon. All right, I went ahead and did all of them. What I usually do for the grommets is I mark it out with a heat erasable pen, and I mark it like I place the washer on where it needs to sit and I space it out evenly. You can see my whole tutorial on how to do that. And then normally I use a hole punch and a hammer and a self-healing mat to punch out the holes. However, I'm going to assume that we don't have money to buy extra tools, so all we're going to use is a sharp, stabby thing. You can find any sort of thing. If it has a taper, that's ideal. Start a little pilot hole and then just ram that big stick through. Ayo. You're going to make a big hole, big enough to fit your two-part grommet. So we've got the back side, well actually that's the front side, the male end is the front side. And you got your washer, which goes on the back side. Set it in. If you buy the hammer and anvil set, which I do recommend over the pliers, you'll put the you'll put the male end through the back side, the female end or the pole end on the top side. Give it a whack and you crush it. And you get a beautiful rolled grommet. So with that, our corset just needs some laces and then we get to try her on. I am very curious to try it on now. See if it fits really nice with that boning. All right, let's try it on. And here is the finished corset. As you saw, I wore it to Meow Wolf in Las Vegas, and it was pretty comfortable most of the day. The edges that I was concerned about on the boning really wasn't too bad. However, I do prefer just that multi-directional flex that spiral steel boning gives. My other concern was that the tummy here, as I bent to like fuss with my shoe throughout the day, it did eventually create a crease that I could bend out and then I'd get some more tummy control again. However, I don't want to have to keep taking off the corset to bend the tummy back. I will at some point be replacing all the plastic with classic spiral steel and flat steel boning. However, for like a quick mock-up or if you just need like a little quick costume wear, this boning actually works pretty decent. That being said, how did we do on our budget? So the goal was $75. We got 1 yard of canvas for $9.99, which was on sale from $12.99, so make sure you have those Joann's coupons. We also got 1 heavy separating zipper for $3.74 on sale. 2 packs of binding, one was $4.99, the other was $2.49 with a coupon, for a total of $7.48. Then I got 2 packs of 3/8 inch grosgrain ribbon for $7.99 each, thread for $4.99, and tax was $3.49, bringing our whole total that we spent at Joann's to $37.67. However, we did not use both packs of the bias binding and the grosgrain ribbon. So if we subtract the 2 packs that we did not use, that means our new total comes to $32.18, which is still roughly about half of our budget. So how did we do on the hardware? We got the free zip ties, which saved up a little room to buy nice grommets and a nice grommet setter. In my opinion, it is harder to replace bad grommets than it is to replace mediocre boning. A pack of my favorite grommets and a hand setter from Amazon would have been $51.57 for a total of, drumroll please, $83.75, or $90 if you add in my print at home pattern, which is $7, which you can get down in the description below. So inflation got our butts. I had a lot of fun with this challenge. If you have any other challenge ideas, I would love to hear them, so put them in the comments down below. I'll see you in the next video.